A taxi driver in this city once spent the entire ride warning me about all the scam taxis in Budapest. Then we arrived at my hotel and suddenly his card machine stopped working. That's Budapest for you. I've been coming here since 2013. I genuinely love this city, and that's exactly why I won't lie to you about it. In this video, I'll show you what things actually cost, the ticket mistake that gets tourists fined on the spot, the new rules that completely change the famous thermal baths, and how you skip the 1-hour queue at the most beautiful cafe on earth. Let's start at the airport. The 100E Airport Express runs 24 hours a day and takes you to the city center in about 40 minutes. A few years ago it cost 900 forints. Today it costs 2,500. And that's the story of this entire city. Still good value, but the days of extremely cheap Budapest are gone. But maybe the bus isn't for you. Maybe you've got luggage, you're tired after the flight, and you just want a taxi straight to your hotel. That's exactly what I did on an earlier trip, and it's time I finished the story from the intro. Everyone will tell you the same thing about Budapest taxis. You should never ever hail a random one on the street, and you should avoid the ones marked freelancer, and if you order through a big established company, you're safe. So that's what I did, and my driver was lovely. He spent the whole ride telling me about all the other drivers, the freelancers, the crooks, the hyenas, the guys who add an extra zero to your bill. And then we arrived to my hotel and suddenly his card machine wasn't working and he really wanted me to pay in cash. We sat there for a while, but he did get his card payment in the end. But here's what makes the story useful for you today. As of autumn 2025, every licensed taxi in Budapest is required to accept card payments by law. So if a driver ever tells you the machine is broken and pushes for cash, that's a red flag and you're fully within your rights to insist on paying by card. You know, the law is fully on your side now. One honest update from this exact trip. Budapest has clearly cleaned things up. I didn't spot a single freelancer taxi this time, and most of the cabs I saw were branded Bolt or Uber. And every taxi I actually sat in had the official tariff and its own plate number displayed right there in the window as stickers. So even the taxi horror stories you've read are partly outdated now. The bottom line in 2026 is simple: as long as you have data on your phone in Budapest, you're very unlikely to get scammed by a taxi. And here's how I do it. I use the Bolt app every single time because you see the price estimate and the driver's details before you even get in the car, and everything is paid through the app, so there's no cash discussion and no creative math when you arrive. But Bolt only works if you have data the second you land, and that's why an eSIM matters more in Budapest than in almost any other city that I visit. I use Saily. You install the app before you leave home, you buy a data package for Hungary, and it activates automatically when you land. So you're never standing there hunting for airport Wi-Fi while a helpful driver walks towards you. And you'll keep needing that data all week here because Budapest's public transport app is genuinely one of the best in Europe. And you'll want to check Google Maps reviews before you pick a restaurant in this city. I'll show you exactly why that matters later in the video, and there's a link in the description, and with the code DESTINATION you get 15% off. It's the first thing I set up before every single trip, and in this city specifically, it's your best defense against ever getting scammed. Alright, let's get back to Budapest. Now the money. The Hungarian forint is going to mess with your head because nothing here costs like 10 or 15 forints. So memorize one anchor. 1,000 forints is roughly 270 euros or 320 US dollars. That's how you sanity check any bill in 2 seconds, and you'll want to because a classic trick here is an extra zero on the bill, and with this many zeros most tourists never notice. 2 more traps. The bright blue Euronet ATMs combine bad exchange rates with fat fees, so walk past them and use a real bank's machine if you need cash. And when any card terminal offers to charge you in euros instead of forints, always choose forints. Tipping works differently here. Check your bill for service charge. It'll say servicedich, and most restaurants add like a 10 to 15% automatically. So basically like they do in London these years. If it's already there, you're done. So don't tip on top of that. If it's not, around 10% is normal here. So what does Budapest actually cost in 2026? Real numbers from this exact trip. A bolt taxi from the airport to the Fisherman's Bastion was 12,140. A flat white and a horrible brownie near the Fisherman's Bastion came to 2,890. A can of nectar, a bottle of water and a banana in a touristy supermarket was 1,008. A lovely Asian meal in the city centre with a Chang beer was 8,962. A takeaway quesadilla from Papitos in the Jewish quarter was 4,290. A can of local beer in a supermarket is 429. I was here in 2013 when everything felt absurdly cheap, and that city is gone. But Budapest is still cheaper than Copenhagen, Paris and London, and your hotel money especially goes further here. But come expecting good value instead of a bargain paradise and you'll have a much better trip. Getting around is easy and everything runs on one app called Budapest Go. You can even follow your exact bus live on the map, so you always know it's coming. But here's the ticket mistake I promised you. Buying a ticket is not the same as validating it. Every single ticket must be validated when you board, and on the metro you do it before you go down to the platform. Single tickets don't cover transfers either. So do what I do and just get the 72-hour travel card instead. It covers everything with unlimited transfers and it never needs validating. Metro Line 1 deserves a special mention because it's an attraction in itself. It opened in 1896 as the first underground railway in mainland Europe, and the little yellow trains still feel like a museum ride running straight up to the Hero Square. And by the way, travelers over 65 ride free in this city, just carry photo ID. Budapest is split by the Danube, with Buda on the hilly side and Pest on the flat side, and almost everything you want as a first-time visitor sits over on the Pest side. So let me give you the 4 areas that actually make sense. District 5 is the city centre, and this is the safe choice. You're next to the Parliament, St. Stephen's Basilica, the shopping streets, everything is walkable, and you'll pay a bit more for the convenience, but if it's your first visit and you want maximum ease, this is your district. District 7 is the old Jewish quarter, and it's where you'll find the ruin bars, the street food and most of the nightlife. 20 years ago, people called it up and coming, and today it's fully arrived, but it still has this wonderfully unpolished edge that most European capitals have lost. If you want to step out of your hotel and immediately be where things happen, stay here. Just check the exact street before you book, because a hotel can look peaceful at midday and turn out to sit directly above a party at 2 in the morning. District 6 around the Opera and Andrassy Avenue is the smart compromise. It's central, it's beautiful and it's well connected, but many of the streets are noticeably calmer at night than the busiest parts of the party district next door. And one warning wherever you book.
Budapest still has hotels that look fine in the photos and feel like a sad Eastern Bloc time capsule in person. So check the description below where I've shared some of my favorite hotels here.
And then there's District 1, which is the Castle District over on the Buda side. It's calm, it's scenic, and it is the most family-friendly area in the city. You're one bridge away from the action, which some people see as a downside and other people, especially parents, see as the entire point. And it is very quiet over here when you move away from the tourist sites. I'm literally 2 minutes from the Fisherman's Bastion and there's no one here. Now, before we get to the biggest hack in this video, let me save you from the most common sold out disappointments in Budapest, because there are a few things you should book before you even land. Number one is the Parliament tour, and only buy through the official ticket site, because the Parliament itself warns against third-party resellers selling overpriced and sometimes invalid tickets. Number two is your thermal bath, especially on weekends, and just know the online tickets are usually tied to a date and non-refundable, so pick your day carefully. And number three is dinner on Friday and Saturday nights here, because the good restaurants in this city do fill up, and the ones with space left at 8 PM on a Saturday are usually the ones you want to avoid anyway.
And now let me pay off that promise about the cafe. This is the New York cafe, and it's usually called the most beautiful cafe in the world, and that's not an exaggeration. This room looks like someone turned an opera house into a coffee shop, you know. There's live music, marble columns, painted ceilings, and enough gold to make a royal palace feel underdressed. And that's exactly why there's a queue outside that regularly hits an hour or more. So here's how to skip that queue. The cafe actually sits inside the Anantara New York Palace Hotel, which is where I stay when I want the building itself to be part of the trip. Because here's the part that feels almost unfair. Breakfast for hotel guests is served right inside the famous cafe itself. While the public queue formed outside, I walked in, got shown to a table and ate my breakfast under those golden ceilings like it was the most normal thing in the world. And last time I stayed here, I got a table up on the gallery level, so if you can get a table up there, you'll sit there looking out over the whole room, and it might be a bit of a long walk down to the buffet, but I promise you it's worth it. The hotel is one of the great luxury splurges in this city, because hotel prices in Budapest still sit well below Western Europe, so a room here costs far less than a hotel room at this level would have cost in Paris or London. So if there's one splurge to make in this city, it's this one. Okay, it's time to talk about the baths, because I promised you my honest take, and I also promised you some new rules, and those rules have changed everything. But first, my opinion. The Saily thermal bath is on every single Budapest list ever written. It's the big yellow building with the outdoor pools, and it's where every influencer takes that steamy photo. I've been, and here's my honest opinion. It didn't really live up to the hype for me. And let me explain what I mean, because I didn't hate it, you know. The building is gorgeous and the outdoor pools are a special sight. My problem is that it was so crowded that it was quite hard just to relax. And once you get past the beautiful facade, a lot of it feels quite old and worn. So if you're imagining a luxurious spa day with treatments and calm and immaculate changing rooms, this is really not that. But if you see Saily as a cultural experience, a beautiful old building where you hang out in warm water with half of Europe may be nursing a hangover, and you get your famous photo, then you'll have a good time. Go early on a weekday morning if you can, because it only gets busier through the day. But here's what the old guides completely miss, because the rules changed in 2025. Children under 14 aren't allowed in anymore, and that covers all the famous baths. Flip-flops are mandatory and towels aren't included, so bring your own. And that famous Gellert bath closed for renovation until 2028, so ignore every guide that still sends you there.
This is the Fisherman's Bastion, up in the Castle district, and those white towers overlooking the Parliament and the Danube are probably the most photographed spot in all of Budapest. It's on everyone's itinerary, which means you will absolutely not have it to yourself, and in the middle of the day it can feel like a theme park up here. But here's what most visitors don't realize. Most of the Bastion is completely free. The lower terraces and many of the classic views never require a ticket. It's only the upper viewing terrace that charges admission, and at the moment that costs 1,700 forints during staffed hours, which in summer means from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. So come before 9 or after 9, and even the upper towers are free, and you'll share the place with a fraction of the people. And once you've taken the famous photo, keep walking, because that's my second trick. 2 minutes away from the Bastion, in almost any direction, the crowds disappear almost completely, and you're suddenly alone in some of the most beautiful streets of Budapest. So find a quiet cafe, get a coffee or a glass of wine, and enjoy a side of the city most visitors never see.
And let's head back over to the Pest side, because the most famous street in Budapest comes with a warning. Váci Utka is the main shopping street, and it's fine for a walk and some shopping, but be very selective about eating on it or right next to it. Because this is tourist trap territory, you know, the kind that ends up in the news. It's also a bit wild to walk there and have ladies offering you massages, you know. It's the most famous street in an EU capital, not the back streets of Bangkok. You can't skip the ruin bars. 20 years ago, people started filling the Jewish quarter's abandoned buildings with mismatched furniture and second-hand junk and cheap beer, and Simpler Kert is the original. Normally, the most famous version of anything is a warning sign, but Simpler is the exception. It's a maze where an old bathtub is a sofa and a trabant is a table. My advice is that you go in the afternoon or early evening when you can actually explore the place, because late at night it turns into a packed tourist party. If you want it a bit calmer, Kert is a relaxed garden bar nearby, and by the way, my budget secret around here is Bakelit Cafe, where the prices still feel like the Budapest of 15 years ago. And if you like this party side of Budapest, here's a bonus tip, because there's 1 week every August when this city turns into something else entirely. The Sziget festival out on the Buda island in the Danube is one of the biggest music festivals in Europe, and I've been 3 times. So here's my veteran move. Skip the camping, book a hotel in the city instead, ideally one with a pool, because it gets really warm in August in Budapest. So you party on the island, you sleep in a real bed, and you spend your recovery hours by the pool instead of in a boiling tent. Where should you actually eat? 2 honest tips. First, the classics. Real Hungarian goulash is a soup, not the thick stew most tourists imagine, so nobody got your order wrong. And the chimney cakes you'll see everywhere are more fun to watch than to eat, and the city centre stands charge nearly double what the spots 300 meters outside of the main streets charge. Second, and this surprised me over the years, Budapest's international food scene is now a bigger strength than the Hungarian restaurants aimed at tourists. My three favorites, Igen for pizza, Teresa for Mexican, and Wafu for Japanese. It's right next to Simpla actually.
I want to prepare you for something that surprises a lot of first-time visitors, and that's the service culture. You know, people in Budapest don't really do the big friendly smile, so you won't get much small talk in restaurants, and staff can seem short with you. And you know, on my very first trip here back in the day at the Danube Grand Hotel on Margaret Island, the entire staff seemed literally furious at everyone all day, every day. My travel pal and I were always wondering what we'd done wrong, you know. So here's what I've learned after all my trips. You've done nothing wrong, and it usually has nothing to do with you. The tone here is simply more reserved and more direct than what many of us are used to, and efficiency counts for more than performed friendliness. So Budapest, yes, this city has its scams. The prices no longer match its old reputation, and nobody here is going to pretend to be thrilled to see you. And I still think this is one of the best city breaks in Europe, because underneath all that, you'll find one of the most beautiful cities on the continent. If you have any questions about Budapest, write a comment below and I'll do my very best to help. And if you've already been, tell me what surprised you the most about this city. That would be quite interesting to hear.